Welcome back my fellow Spartans to the Triple S Variety channel. I'm your host Triple S, and in this video I'll be breaking down and reviewing the 7th episode of the 2nd season of the Halo TV show titled Thermopylae. Now let's begin. Point number 1, McKee mentions high charity to Chief. Does he even know what that is though? Did McKee tell him about it back when they were hanging out together in season 1? Point number 2.
What if there are no sides? Owning life and death, light and dark, us and them.
Has McKee been watching Game of Thrones?
This isn't about noble houses. This is about the living and the dead.
Point number 3. No wonder Uto Omdama is a priest, since he makes a pretty shitty warrior, missing McKee when she doesn't even really dodge, having to stop and catch his breath, then not even being able to react fast enough to stab McKee behind him. He couldn't even take her down with him Emil style. Point number 4. Parangosky name drops Stanforth, a character from the Blue timeline who first appeared in the novel The Fall of Reach, and who was a big supporter of Halsey, used to be head of Section 3 of ONI, and commanded the UNSC forces during the Battle of Sigma Octanus 4 and the Fall of Reach, where he died when his ship the Leviathan was destroyed. Point number 5.
Stop right there!
Point number 6. I wonder what angle the show is going with here in regards to the Foreigners. Will they be the same as humans, or will they be separate? To me, with Halsey saying she found both Foreigner and human DNA, it sounds like they might go with them being separate, but who knows. Point number 7. So I was right when I called that Thermopylae is IRL training that Soren had to go through when becoming a Spartan, but like he says, it was less about defending the pass and more about learning what it means to be a Spartan, fighting rather than running. Which of course applies to the Spartan 3s, but the situation happening with them is like a twisted version of Thermopylae. It remains the same as the historical battle that there are significantly less Spartans than Persians/Covenants, but unlike history, it isn't the Persians/Covenant assaulting the well-positioned and defended Spartans, but the Spartans assaulting the well-positioned and defended Persians/Covenants. Point number 8.
I made a mistake. Maybe you don't know what that feels like, but that's what humans do. They make mistakes.
We all make mistakes. It's what makes us human.
Point number 9. So if I'm understanding Halsey correctly, part of her search for children to abduct into a Spartan program was also her searching for kids whose genetics were similar to the human DNA she found in these ruins, right? Why then were the rest of Silver Team not able to activate the Lesser Keystone when they touched it in season 1? Are their genetics similar but not as close as John's or something? Point number 10. Why does Kai just randomly stand in front of and stare at where her armor should be? Seems a bit random to me. Point number 11. So thanks to Parangosky, everyone thinks Chief died on Reach, so him showing up in his armor will reveal her to be the liar she is and give weight behind Ackerson's claims that she was part of sacrificing Reach. But then, what about all the Marines that have thus far been sent to apprehend Chief? What have they been told about him having supposedly died on Reach but has now shown up alive and well? Were they told the same thing Ackerson tried to put into Kai's head, that Chief was now working with the Covenant due to interacting with McKee? Point number 12. I've been wondering for most of this season whether Quan might actually be like John and McKee and be a Blessed One herself, and seeing her interacting with and figuring out all this Foreigner stuff is just making me think that's true more and more. What do you guys think? Point number 13. Quan figuring out they needed to reposition the stars to where they would have been on the map millions of years ago is similar to Cortana in the novel The Fall of Reach, analysing the data acquired from the Foreigner artifact on Sigma Octanus 4 and figuring out the location of Installation 04 by repositioning stars to where they would have been a few thousand years ago. Also in regards to figuring out how to unlock the Foreigner door by using their understanding of mathematics, linguistics, space and time, this really reminds me of the Stargate SG-1 episode Thor's Chariot, where there is a test involving runes, shapes and pictographs which are meant to only be solvable by a civilization that's become advanced enough to know what the number pi is. Point number 14. Oh hells yes, the classic Heartlight Bridge and the classic Foreigner door. I love it. I've seen people mistakenly think the symbol in the middle of the door is that of a Guardian though, that we see in Halo 5, but while similar, the two symbols are different, with the lines in the lower half of the symbols not matching up. The top symbol though we have definitely seen before, all the way back in Halo Combat Evolved in the mission 343 Guilty Spark. You know, the mission where you encountered the Flood for the first time. Point number 15.
This is no mine.
It's a tomb.
Point number 16.
It's a laboratory.
Excuse me, but if watching Dexter growing up taught me anything, it's how to pronounce laboratory properly.
Laboratory!
Point number 17. Oh wow, the show actually shows us a Foreigner, a dead one but still. Gives me the same vibes as seeing the dead space jockey in the first Alien movie. I wonder how and why they died. Starvation maybe? And why were they locked in the laboratory? It also makes me wonder how different the Halo rings are in this timeline compared to the blue timeline. So far I've only ever heard of there being one ring, more than that existing hasn't been revealed yet, and I wonder if it ever will. And will the show have it that the Halo has been activated before to wipe out the Flood? Because if it has, then this foreigner body shouldn't exist. It should have been disintegrated by the Halo. That is, if the Halo functions the same way in this timeline as it does in the blue timeline. Point number 18, so why did the place start shaking, the door start closing, and the bridge deactivate? Delayed quarantine lockdown procedure or something? Though that doesn't explain why the lights then turned on to reveal the city the foreigners have for some reason built underground. Point number 19, oh, Halsey is seriously just seeing what she wants to see. That is almost certainly the spread of the Flood across the galaxy, infecting world after world. And the silver debrief on the Halo Waypoint website strongly indicates this is in fact connected to the Flood as well in its core connections section. Let us speak of old things, hidden terrible things from a time long forgotten. From one of the Magellanic clouds of stars beyond the reaches of our galaxy, a fleet of ancient starships arrived at our cosmic border. These vessels were of unknown design and on an automated trajectory, carrying neither passengers nor crew, but a curious cargo, millions of glassy cylinders containing a fine, desiccated powder. Wreckage of these mysterious ships were discovered by the ancestors on worlds both inhabited and empty. Upon examination, they were found to contain shorter chain molecules, simple and inert, organic, yet seemingly neither alive nor capable of life. Experiments on animals demonstrated desirable psychotropic effects, improving their domestic behavior, and over several centuries this powder was used without ill consequences. But in time, the long-term effects of this powder became known. A peculiar growth began to emerge, initially thought of as a natural mutation, until these animals, natural herbivores, began consuming these growths, and eventually the animals themselves. This set off some sort of biological timer, a signal for expansion, as these growths soon began to manifest in the ancient human ancestors. Know that as energetic and tenacious as life is, it has an antithesis just as powerful. It is that thing that we must obliterate. Point number 20, with the revelation that this is most likely a foreigner lab where they were testing on the Flood, why then has this vision of the mother been leading Quan to its location? Is it benevolent, leading Quan there so she can learn about the Flood and warn others, or is it malevolent, leading her there to unintentionally release the Flood? Is the mother a foreigner Gesh, or is she a Flood psychic message from a grave mind on the ring, or perhaps even the show's version of the primordial? Point number 21, so seeing McKee still having the marks on her back from when she was attacked as a child most definitely means she isn't some form of clone. I doubt we're ever going to get an answer to the mystery of how she survived being shot, though as I said before, we don't really need an answer since people get shot and survive all the time. Point number 22, Talia wondering if John actually made the coin Halsey had in flip come up heads is just like in the novel The Fall of Reach, when Halsey herself wonders the exact same thing. Point number 23, nope, I don't like that hiss and the dust that came out of that thing when Miranda opened it. Gives me Wickus opening the prawn black goo fuel container in District 9 vibes. Point number 24, is Section 70 where Halsey and Miranda are, and that's why Halsey disappears, she's run off so she doesn't get captured? Or could Section 70 be where Quan ran off to and Halsey's gone to find her? Point number 25, I called it that Kai would join her Spartan 3s in space jumping into the Covenant fleet. Now I'm wondering though, who might be the one to make the great sacrifice, Kai or Talia? Maybe Kai, a Spartan 2, will throw Talia, a Spartan 3, out of a ship before destroying it, just like how George, a Spartan 2, threw Noble 6, a Spartan 3, out of the Ardent Prayer before destroying it. And what if they do blow up a ship, since Ackerson discovered if they plug in the spike, it will essentially self-destruct in a blast that will encompass everything within 1,000,000 miles, including the Halo. The Halo will most likely protect itself, but I wonder in what way. Will it just use hard light shields, or could it possibly slit space jump? After all, a major part of the first Halo game was that no one knew where the Halo was besides those already on the Halo, so a rescue couldn't be launched for the crew of the Pillar of Autumn. But in this timeline, humanity knows where the Halo is. A desperate struggle to survive and escape the ring isn't possible unless the ring slit space jumps to an unknown location, making it impossible for reinforcements or a rescue party to be sent to the ring and to Master Chief. To round all this off, my most disliked part of the episode goes to how Parangosky treats the Spartan 3s and Ackerson. Just like how they ramped up the snarkiness of Halsey this season, they really ramped up the ruthless heartlessness of Parangosky. And my most liked part of the episode goes to Briggs getting what she deserves. Love it. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Triple S Variety channel. Why not leave a comment below pointing out anything I missed but you noticed? I would love to hear from you all. I've been Triple S, you've all been amazing, and I shall see you all in the next video.